Here we go, toss up one. Using Maxwell's equations in the Lorentz gauge, one can derive a wave equation relating the D'Alembertian of this quantity to the charge density. This quantity can be calculated at point R by integrating the charge density evaluated at R prime divided by R minus R prime times the differential of R prime. In electromagnetism, the Helmholtz theorem ensures that the fields can be written in terms of the gradient of this quantity plus the curl for related vector quantity minus the gradient of this quantity gives the electric field. For a point charge, this quantity equals kq over r, where q is the charge and r is the distance from the charge. For 10 points, the potential energy per unit charge equals what quantity, which equals the product of current and resistance by Ohm's law. Yes? No penalty? Yes? No, it's the electric potential or voltage. So no penalty, no points either side there. Toss up 2. This author wrote about a boy who recalls hearing the cries of infant twins left to die in a pot, which made him feel the snapping of a tightened bow. This writer created another character who a priest tells to kill a sacred royal python. In that novel, the epithet Breaker of Guns is written by Captain Winterbottom, who oversees 6 villages where the protagonist is the chief priest. This author wrote about a man whom an elder warns bury no hand in his death, but nonetheless delivers a killing blow with a machete. That character of this author's beats his wife during the week of peace, is exiled for 7 yes? 10 bonus. A recently hired I'm not making any of this up. As a recently hired investment banker, you are attempting to finance a company. Before the horrific work hours claim your soul, answer the following related to your task for 10 points each. You suggest your clients sell a lot of these debt instruments in order to raise money. Examples of these things issued by the U.S. Treasury are considered the gold standard for safety and investment. Yeah, just bonds. Your clients are financially conservative, so you try to make sure the ratio of debt to this quantity remains relatively low. This quantity represents the value of assets minus liabilities. Equity. After painstakingly figuring out how to finance things, you learn this theorem from finance states that, under certain assumptions, the value of any given company should be affected by how it's financed. Answer? Modigliani Miller. So 10 points? And toss up 3. In what is now this country, Joseph W. Duncan massacred hundreds in the extinct volcanic crater of Mount Dajo. A group in this modern-day country made use of oath-taking commandos called juramentados. The drafting of this country's 1935 constitution was set out in the Tiddings-McDuffie Act. An essay mockingly defending Frederick Funston's actions in this modern-day country was written by Mark Twain. The American Anti-Imperialist League was founded to oppose this country's annexation through the 1898 Treaty of Paris. Leonard Wood suppressed this country's Moro rebellion and led its insular government years after William H. Taft did. For 10 points, in this modern-day country where Emilio Aguinaldo rebelled against the U.S. after the Spanish-American War. Yes? No penalty. It's all in the Philippines. The Philippines. Toss up 4. The third movement of this composer's Piano Concerto No. 1 begins with a short brass fanfare in A minor, even though the piece is in G minor. One of his pieces includes a march movement that begins with 3 solo trumpets playing a triplet of Cs, then a longer C. That movement is often heard alongside Wagner's Treulich and Fjord. This composer wrote a concert overture at age 17, just 1 year after his string octet in E-flat major. The rhythm of the Saltarello dance dominates the finale of this composer's Italian symphony. His third symphony, meanwhile, was inspired by the same trip to Scotland. Yes? No, make 5. Was inspired by the same trip to Scotland that produced his overture, the Hebrides. For 10 points, name this composer of incidental music to A Midsummer Night's Dream. Felix Mendelssohn. Felix Mendelssohn. That piece that's heard alongside Wagner's Treulich and Fjord. Wedding March. You walk into Wagner, you walk out to Mendelssohn. Toss up 5. A feminist responds response to this event claims women have gained greater scorn from it and opens with the question, man, are you capable of being fair? A witness of it named Joseph de Maistre analyzed the negative consequences of this event, which titles an essay that argues against abstract entitlements to food and medicine and attacks Richard Price's sermons. Everything is the answer to the title question of a political craft written just before this event, which states that the title group wants to become something. It's not in America, but a book defending this event, Thomas Paine's The Rights of Man, responds to a defense of constitutional monarchy and Edmund Burke's reflections on this event. Pamphlets like What is the Third Estate help kick off, for 10 points, what upheaval in late 18th century France? Yes. 10 bonus. This country's leaders tried to distract citizens from the failing economy by starting the Falklands War. For 10 points each, identify the South American country, which has basically had troubles with the IMF ever since, most predominantly from 1998 to 2002, when it undertook the largest sovereign default in history. This term, coined by IMF critic John Williamson, refers to the standard prescription of 10 policies, including market liberalization and austerity, that are usually imposed on countries that receive bailouts. Answer? No. It's called the Washington Consensus. This critic of the Washington Consensus first became prominent leading coca-growing campesinos in the protests against the war on drugs. This ethnic Aymara and current world leader was elected in 2005 at the head of the Movement for Socialism ticket. Answer? I know, Evo Morales. Evo Morales. So 10 points. Toss up 6. Missionaries for this religion were sent to King Antioco by a ruler who convened its third council. Texts from this religion record questions asked of a sage by a ruler named Menander, who came from the Euthydemus dynasty, like Demetrius the Invincible. Innovative art depicting figures from this religion was developed in the city of Taxila. This religion was heavily patronized by rulers of the Bactrian and Kushan empires, the latter of which issued coins depicting the three jewels. This religion's spread is indicated at places like Lumbini by pillar edicts created by a king who converted to it after the horrific Kalinga campaign. For 10 points, identify this religion adopted by Ashoka on account of its non-violence. Yes? Buddhism. 10 bonus. Namesake belts created by these events are typically found near subduction zones and linked to the formation of island arcs. For 10 points each, name these geological events that are the primary mechanism for mountain range formation. No, orogenies. G.K. Gilbert named the process of orogeny to distinguish it from epiorogeny and this general upheaval and depression of land. Epiorogeny is caused by the same set of forces that creates this phenomenon, which is the gravitational equilibrium between the mantle and the Earth's crust. I know it's isostasy or isostatic equilibrium. Orogenic movement is generally more complex than heterogenic movement, as it involves crust deformations moved by the convergence of these structures that cover the Earth's surface and are thought to move via seafloor spreading. 10 bonus. 10 on the bonus. So, toss up 7. One result derived by this scientist states that the curvature of a surface cannot change if one merely introduces bends into it without adding in deformations. The integral of curvature on a compact boundaryless manifold equals 2 pi times the Euler characteristic, according to a theorem named for this prover of the remarkable theorem and Pierre Bonnet. A system of linear equations written inside a matrix can be solved by turning the matrix into a row echelon form using this mathematician's namesake elimination. Apocryphally, this man summed the numbers from 1 to 101 as a youth by realizing that it was an arithmetic sequence. For 10 points, name this German mathematician who names the normal distribution. Yes? 10 bonus. This man kept up a correspondence with Ignatius Sancho, a freed slave who became the first black man to vote in Britain. For 10 points each, name this Anglican clergyman who published 45 sermons before his apolitical romance was burned by the church, leading him to take up a writing career. Lawrence Stern. Stern wrote a novel about the life and opinions of this man, who narrates his own birth in books 2 and 3. Yes. Many of Stern's sermons were written using this pseudonym, which is also the name of the parson who baptizes Tristram. Prince Hamlet limits the death of the character of this name with infinite jest while holding a skull. Answer? Yeah, 20 points. Toss-up 8. A sect named for this thing organized itself under Bacharaka leaders in the 12th century to avoid continuing disintegration. A religion that reveres the personification of this thing, described with the adjective kook, and represented as a white goose, is undergoing revival in Mongolia. This thing lends its name to a sect that believes women cannot achieve moksha without first being reincarnated as men. This thing is the domain of the greatest Turkic deity, Tingri. The name of the Digambara sect means clad in this thing, since its adherents are nude. The general Indo-European archetype of a father deity associated with this thing is exemplified by the Greek god Uranus. For 10 points, the thunder god Jupiter ruled over what heavenly? Yes? 10 bonus. This artist stripped the Haussmann and improved Paris in 1883 may have helped influence his Rainy Day, Boston, for 10 points each. Name this American artist who painted several American flags during World War I in his Avenue in the Rain. Child to Song. This artist in the same movement depicted a veiled woman and her husband who wears a top hat and holds an umbrella in his Paris street, Rainy Day. He painted several figures looking over a bridge in the Gare Saint-Lazare in the Bridge of Europe. Gustave Caillebotte. Hassam and Caillebotte were both members of this art movement, which included Caillebotte's good friend Pierre-Auguste Renoir. It got its name from a Claude Monet painting of a sunrise at Le Havre. 10 points. Toss-up 9. The entrance to a museum in this city is towered over by an abstract Richard Lippold sculpture called Ad Astra. A museum in this city, designed by Seattle architect John Paul Jones, uses an expressionist design to imitate the look of Pueblo sandstone architecture and contains the Hay Collection. John McShane first was hired to redesign a building in the city, including putting wooden panels in the mat room, vermeil room, and china room. The city is home to the painting Princess from the Land of Porcelain, which is found in the Peacock Room of the Freer Gallery. The Lansdowne portrait, executed by Gilbert Stuart, is found in the Red Room in one of the city's buildings. For 10 points, in this city home to both the Smithsonian and the one. Yes? 10 bonus. Now all those references to like the Red Room and the Peacock make sense, yeah. And your bonus. Answer the following about theories of political legitimacy for 10 points each. This German sociologist grouped legitimacy into charismatic, rational, legal, and traditional sources. He's more famous for his book, The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism. Max Weber. This traditional Chinese theory originated during the Zhou dynasty. It grants rulers legitimacy based on their ability to govern competently and fairly. I know, it's called the Mandate of Heaven. Mandate of Heaven. In a 1973 book, this thinker introduced the concept of a legitimation crisis, which occurs when states cannot achieve their goals with available means. In another work, he developed a two-level conception of society grounded in Edmund Husserl's notion of the life world. Jürgen Habermas. So that is no points on the bonus. And toss up 10. This author created a character who listens to the mysteries of the corridor through his keyhole. This author wrote a story about a man who, while on a steamboat, discovers that a poor man selling oysters is his brother, who sadly never found success in America. A story about his wife begins with a red-bearded man who's described as the terror of all respectable people, whistling a national anthem while the title character weeps. This author of My Uncle Jules wrote about a carriage full of travelers who are stopped at an inn where a Prussian officer demands the title woman become his mistress. In another of his stories, Mathilde pays off debt for 10 years after losing a piece of beautiful jewelry. For 10 points, this author of Ball of Fat and The Necklace. Yes? No penalty. Yes? G de Maupassant. Maupassant.
Did you say ball?
Ball of Fat. Yes, it's the nickname of the prostitute. She is plump. All right. So I have 110 to 5. I'm gonna drink of water real quick.
I already had my drink of water.
I saw yes.
You were not quite question 18.
Toss up 11. I need 2 answers. Okay? 2 answers. A A river named for the capital of one of these countries, classically known as the Koban or Kuba, flows into the other's main river after passing through Warsaw Dam. A mountain range that defines these countries' border contains the Throne of Solomon Peak, which is found in one of these countries' federally administered tribal areas. The busiest point of entry for travel between these countries is the Torkham Crossing, which leads into a province that contains Swat Valley. Their border is defined by the Durand Line, which cuts through the Khyber Pass and follows the Hindu Kush mountain range. Combined, these two countries contain the majority of the Pashtun people, as well as most Taliban militants. For 10 points, name these two countries whose capitals are Islamabad and Kabul. Yes.
Syria and Afghanistan.
Nope. Yes.
Nepal, Bhutan.
No, Pakistan and Afghanistan. Pakistan and Afghanistan. Toss up 12. Point groups with this property cannot contain improper rotation symmetry and include C sub n. Complexes containing 3 bidentate ligands will have this property and can undergo processes named for Bilar or Ray and Dutt. This property is possessed by the Evans auxiliary, which is used in asymmetric induction to synthesize molecules with this property. Molecules with this property can be studied with circular dichroism spectroscopy. The presence of this property is necessary for optical activity. Carbon atoms only have this property when all four groups they are bonded to are different. Molecules with this property possess isomers called enantiomers. For 10 points, name this property of having a non-superimposable yes. Yeah, 10 points. Chirality. And your bonus? One author of this ethnicity wrote about a boy who admires Fred Astaire named Donald Duck, D-U-K, and wrote the essay 50 Years of Our Whole Voice. For 10 points each, name this ethnicity of Frank Chin, who compiled I.E., the first major anthology of Asian American literature. This is the ethnicity of Jean Luen Yang and Maxine Hong Kingston, the author of Woman Warrior. Answer. No, Chinese Americans. Chinese Americans. Jean Luen Yang's American-born Chinese is a work in this medium. Marjane Satrapi's Persepolis was also written in this medium. It's a graphic novel. An essay by this Filipino-American author was printed with Norman Rockwell's The Freedom from Want in the Saturday Evening Post. This author depicted Filipino migrant workers in California, and America is in the heart. Carlos Bulasan. So, no points in the bonus. Toss up 13. A bishop of this city, named Against the World, compiled the first canonical list of the books of the New Testament in a festal letter. After riots in the city, the rights of Jews were reaffirmed in a letter written by the Emperor Claudius. A Christian brotherhood called the Parabolani was active in this home of the Arian hater Athanasius. The Septuagint was created in this city, where religious mobs murdered the scholar Hypatia. In 391, Bishop Theophilus destroyed the Serapion of this city, which was sacred to Serapis. This city connected the island of Pharos. Was home to scholars like Polemachus and Euclid when it was ruled by the Ptolemies. For 10 points, in this Egyptian city, home to a huge lighthouse. Yes. 10 bonus. Pharos is the island where the lighthouse was. The first act of this ballet features a rural village dancing a mazurka and celebrating the arrival of a new belle. For 10 points each, name this Leo Delibes ballet, in which a doctor tries to bring the title character to life by drugging Franz and stealing his soul. Answer? Coppelia. The title toy magically comes to life in this Peter Ilyich Tchaikovsky ballet set on Christmas Eve. It features such numbers as the tray pack and the dance of the sugar plum fairy. In the closing scene of Coppelia, Franz and Swanilda each dance one of these solo dances, which traditionally follows the graceful adagio section of a grand pas de deux. Answer? No, it's a variation. So 10 points. And toss up 14. This poet describes the whole earth as a hospital with a wounded surgeon and dying nurse, where to be restored our sickness must grow worse, in a poem that repeats, "In my beginning is my end." One of this author's poems locates the dance at the still point of the turning world, in a poem that contrasts motion and stillness, as well as time present and time past. According to the extensive footnotes to one of this author's poems, a fable about the meaning of thunder from the Upanishads heavily influences its section of what the thunder said. That poem by this author opens with the declaration, April is the cruelest. Yes? 10 bonus. Augustus Saint-Gaudens' bronze relief sculpture on the Boston Common depicts the losing side of an assault on this fort. For 10 points each, name this fort on Morris Island where Robert Gould Shaw died, leading a failed assault by the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment. Answer? Fort Wagner. Fort Wagner was in the harbor of this South Carolina city where fugitive Beauregard forced Robert Anderson to surrender Fort Sumter in the First Battle of the Civil War. In Charleston, the submarine H.L. Hunley tried to break the Union blockade like this other English-built raider commanded by Raphael Semmes. After the war, the U.S. sued the U.K. for the ship's namesake claims. Answer? It's the Alabama. So 10 points. Toss up 15. Increases in these quantities are related to increases in productivity by the Balassa-Samuelson effect. In a so-called crawling restriction, fluctuations in these quantities are limited to a specific band of values through the use of open market transactions. Building on the law of one price, these quantities are brought in line with the prices of baskets of goods in different locations under the assumption of purchasing power parity. Countries seeking to promote exports, like China, often deliberately depress these quantities, whose black market value, as in Venezuela, often deviates radically from values set formally by a government under a peg. For 10 points, identify these quantities, which give the value of one currency in terms of another. Yes?
Exchange rate?
10 points, your bonus. Is on the next page. Odin spends 9 days hanging himself from this object in order to learn the secrets of the rooms. For 10 points each, name this enormous ash tree which supports the 9 worlds of Norse myth.
No.
Yggdrasil. The base of Yggdrasil is home to a number of these locales, including Evergelmir, one belonging to Mimir, and one named Urdavarnar, used by the 3 Norns. Answer. What? I know it's a well. An enormous tree sits in the great hall of the son of Rayrir, who is conceived when his mother eats a magic apple and subsequently spends 6 years in her womb. Answer? It's full sun, so no points in the bonus. Toss up 16. This author recalls filling 5 dustbins to overflowing with good food in this city in the essay The Spike, which inspired a memoir whose second half describes the author's poverty in this city. Gordon Comstock destroys his poem about the city's pleasures at the end of the novel Keep the Aspidistra Flying. A character becomes a doctor in the city after he is found obsessively making shoes since his release from prison. That man is Lucy Manette's father. This is the second titled city of... Yes? Neg 5. This is the second titled city of a book in which George Orwell is down and out. A lawyer from this city claims to do a far, far better thing than I have ever done by replacing his lookalike Charles Darnay at the guillotine in Paris. For 10 points, in this English titled city of Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. Yes?
London?
10 bonus. Yeah, down and out in the other order. Your bonus. The Penguin edition of this poet's work was written by Maurice Baccarat, who published a standard introduction to this author, as well as a translation of his Carmina. For 10 points each, identify this poet who names a poetic form consisting of a strophe and antistrophe of identical stanza form, followed by an epode, which is of a different form. Answer?
Frost?
No, Pindar. Pindar's ode form was admired and imitated by this Roman ode writer who coined the phrase carpe diem.
Carpathian?
No, Horace. Horace's Carmen Saeculaire is written using a stanza form named for this Aeolic-using poet, which consists of two hendecasyllabic lines and a third beginning the same way, followed by 5 more syllables. This author's Ode to Anactoria was adapted by Catullus. Answer? No, Sappho. Sappho. So no points on the bonus. And toss up 17. This artist painted an angel in gold plate holding a spear and chains, stepping on Satan, and his archangel Michael binding the devil. A painting by this artist held at the Pennsylvania Academy was saved by a firefighter in 1845. Two cherubs pull on a kite while electricity sparks between a key and a man's knuckles, and a painting by this artist, who created a scene with dragons and monsters behind a mounted figure carrying golden spears. This second president of the Royal Academy painted Lieutenant Brown hoisting the British flag above the title figure in one of his history paintings. In that work, by this artist of death on the pale horse, a kneeling Native American witnesses the title man's passing in the Battle of Quebec. For 10 points, name this artist of the death of General Wolfe. Time. His name is Benjamin West. Benjamin West. Toss up 18. This kingdom is the subject of a comprehensive history titled God's Playground by the historian Norman Davies. The Collegium Maius was founded in this kingdom using funds donated by its only female ruler, St. Hedwig. This kingdom oddly made future French king Henry III its first elected monarch. This kingdom's nobility passed the Nihil Novi Act and could single-handedly bring parliamentary action to a halt with the Liberum veto. With a northern neighbor, this kingdom adopted one of the world's first constitutions on May 3rd, 1791. This kingdom's Schlachte nobility participated in a legislature called the Sejm. A neighboring Grand Duchy was united with this kingdom by the Jagiellon dynasty. For 10 points, what kingdom united with Lithuania to form a commonwealth? Yes? No. Yes?
Romania.
Poland. So, toss up 19. Besides pain, this is the most common symptom of disorders treated by etanercept and adalimumab, which are part of a class of drugs called DMARDs. The Westergren erythrocyte sedimentation rate can quantify this process, which causes the liver to release C-reactive protein. This process is encouraged by the cytokines IL-1 and TNF-alpha. The binding of IgE antibodies stimulates this process by causing degranulation of mast cells. NSAIDs are named for the fact that they reduce the occurrence of this process, which occurs in response to the release of histamine. The presence of rheumatoid factor causes this process to occur at the joints. Yes? Neg 5. I am specifically instructed to prompt you on arthritis with what symptom of arthritis? Neg 5. Causes this process to occur at the joints. This is the typical symptom of conditions whose names end with itis. For 10 points, name this process that causes an area to become warm and yes,
Inflammation.
10 points. Bonus. This battle was won by the Duke of Cumberland. For 10 points each, in this battle that ended the Jacobite Rebellion of 1745, a crushing defeat for the forces of Bonnie Prince Charlie.
No answer.
It's the Battle of Culloden. The 45 Rebellion was part of the Jacobite movement, which sought to restore members of this family to the English throne. The last member of this family to hold the throne, James II, was deposed in the Glorious Revolution. No, Stuart. This song recounts Bonnie Prince Charlie's ignominious escape from the Battle of Culloden disguised as Flora MacDonald's maid. It is titled for the isle to which he fled and hopefully closes, yet ere the sword cooled in the sheath, Scotland will rise again. Answer?
No answer.
It's the Sky Boat Song. So no points on the bonus. And toss up the last. According to Helenus, the proper burial of this hero's bones is required for victory in the Trojan War. He exiles 2 of his sons when they conspire to murder their brother Chrysippus. This man marries off many of his daughters to the sons of Perseus, which later allows for the kingship of Mycenae to pass to 2 of his sons. This hero founds the Olympic Games as a thank you for a chariot race he wins with the help of the treacherous Myrtilus. This father of Atreus slays Oenomaus after winning Hippodamia's hand in marriage, and later renames the southern peninsula of Greece after himself. He is given an ivory shoulder after Demeter eats his fleshy shoulder during a feast where this man is cooked and served as a meal by his father. For 10 points, the son of Tantalus. Yes. No penalty. Time. It's the Peloponnesian Peninsula, Pylos. Pylos. So I have a final score of 140 Grayson, 45 Bevill. Thank you, guys.